We are here this morning to celebrate. We celebrate women. We celebrate you. Our world has changed since the last time we've come together. We saw up close the inequities women were faced with, the challenges our communities have been up against. But while the world has changed, we grew stronger, more in tune with communities and in position to meet their greatest needs. For 34 years, the New York Women's Foundation has honored the humanity, leadership, and resilience of women. We invest in their bold ideas and innovative solutions to drive change. And now, we're building forward towards a future that ensures all women can thrive. We're doubling down on our commitment to partnering with the women leaders and grassroots organizations building movements in New York City and beyond. If you are here today, you are part of this change. Your radical generosity makes the difference in transforming the lives of women and their families. Collectively, we are unstoppable. And together, we journey to justice.
Good morning and welcome. I am Yvonne Moore, and on behalf of myself and my fellow board chair, Grania McNamara, we are pleased to welcome you to the New York Women's Foundation Celebrating Women Breakfast. We are so grateful to have each and every one of you joining us virtually today. We hope to celebrate with you in person again very soon. Before we get started, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to the leaders of our breakfast, co-chairs and board members, Ida Morales and Lola C. West, as well as our amazing steering committee.
We have an exceptional program planned for today, and for the first time, we even have a breakfast theme. Together, we journey to justice. We are honoring 8 amazing women who are on this journey with us. Amanda Farinacci, Vivian Lee, Jeanine Ramirez, Kristen Shaughnessy, Roma Torre, Jordan Castille, Monica Ramirez, and Sheri Sandler. What all of these women have in common is their dedication to advancing economic, gender, and racial equality. I know we all look forward to hearing their inspiring words this morning.
We are also here to celebrate our grantee partners. They are on journeys that follow a path of passion, dedication, and creating bold solutions that not only transform the lives of women and families, but the communities they serve. And then there's your journey. When you support the New York Women's Foundation, you support the trailblazing leaders like the ones we're celebrating today.
By giving to the foundation together, our gifts are combined and they become a powerful tool for change, to create a world where women leaders live free of violence and discrimination and can thrive. Because of your radical generosity, the foundation can do what it does best, investing in dynamic leaders on a journey towards a vibrant future for all women. You'll hear more about the foundation's efforts throughout the program today. Thank you for standing in solidarity with the New York Women's Foundation.
Now it is my sincere pleasure to introduce our first honorees, the New York anchor women, Pillars of Courage. Amanda Farinacci, Vivian Lee, Jeanine Ramirez, Kristen Shaughnessy, and Roma Torre. These are 5 award-winning journalists with years of collective experience as anchors and reporters covering New York City. I have turned to these women myself for years for their reporting. Pouring out their hearts and souls into their work for decades, their careers started to take a steep decline as they were confronted with the stark reality of gender discrimination and ageism. After less airtime, being blocked from high-profile reporting roles, and repeated complaints of mistreatment being ignored, they filed suit last spring.
Discrimination based on age or gender is hardly a new phenomenon in the media. For many years, we've been hearing about the hurdles that women face in their advancement, hurdles that their male counterparts and their younger counterparts simply do not face. Leaning into their news reporting roots, these women realized that they themselves were the real story of exactly this phenomenon. The only way to stop this discrimination was to use their voices, to speak up and to speak out, making it clear that this behavior will not be tolerated. Amanda, Vivian, Jeanine, Kristen, and Roma are living and speaking truth to power. It is our honor to present each of you with the Celebrating Women Award for standing up against gender and age discrimination and for your leadership in opening pathways for women in the workplace. Accepting and speaking on behalf of the New York Women's Anchors is Vivian Lee.
Thank you, Grania and Yvonne, and congratulations to all of today's honorees. And to my sisters, Amanda, Jeanine, Kristen, and Roma, thank you so much for entrusting me with this. To have such an esteemed organization as the New York Women's Foundation call the 5 of us Pillars of Courage is a compliment of the highest order. It also felt like a hug, and that's saying a lot in this second year of a pandemic. But it's what I felt when Foundation board member Karen Choi reached out to say the honor would be presented at the breakfast. There is only one, the breakfast, and it was coming back. So here we are today before more than 2,000 of you, the Foundation's members and supporters and donors, and we are deeply honored, very humbled, and grateful. I prefer not to speak about our lawsuit or our former employer. Instead, in the spirit of the Foundation's mission to make the world a better place, we want to highlight how the 5 of us share a common interest with the Foundation, fighting mistaken, preconceived notions of what women can't and shouldn't do. The 5 of us, Amanda Farinacci, Jeanine Ramirez, Kristen Shaughnessy, and Roma Torre, and myself have spent our entire careers telling the stories of our time here in the greatest city that once told often became little engines for change. It was our way of widening membership at society's decision-making table. But one thing that remains resistant to change in a profession whose values include strengthening democracy and speaking truth to power is gender-based age discrimination. The decision-making table in the field we loved still won't make room for older women. Ageism and the sexism it often intersects with is old news in the biz, and it's happening in full view right before your eyes. Departing CNN anchor Brooke Baldwin has gone so far as to say women are not even in the room where all the decisions about whose stories will be told are made, and they're made by men. Over the last year, she has said it wasn't her choice to give up her time slot to a male anchor 1 month before one of the most important elections in at least a generation. And there it is, yet another example of how the public can literally watch as a woman working in TV news hits a certain age and is taken out of the fast lane and told to make do with driving on the shoulder. Men, meanwhile, are celebrated as they age, often publicly lauded for reaching 25, 30, even 50-year milestones in the business. A quick search will show you some women in the TV news business have not taken this lying down. In June 2019, 56-year-old anchor Sandra Maas sued the parent company of KUSI in San Diego for age and gender discrimination after she demanded pay parity with several male colleagues who made more than her, including her co-anchor. And she was let go. Her case is ongoing. In July 2020, CBS station's Group of Texas settled an EEOC lawsuit filed on behalf of 42-year-old Tammy Dombeck Campbell for age discrimination after they refused to hire her as staff following several years as a freelance traffic reporter at KTVT in Fort Worth. They hired a 24-year-old woman with less experience instead. For every lawsuit in the business that alleges age discrimination against women, there may be untold numbers of women who we haven't heard about who left because they aged out. And the sad truth is, a woman's value, especially in a line of work that is in the public eye, is still predicated on her appearance. This is relentlessly reinforced. And today, it's normal to expect a woman to hide her aging. A man's graying temples are distinguished. A woman's graying roots are anything but. A male anchor may need at most 10 minutes in the makeup chair. A female anchor at least double that. And men on camera can wear the same suit days in a row. A woman must be seasonal, trendy, and fresh. A lack of women in top decision-making posts might have something to do with this double standard. In 2018, Nordicom reported that of the world's 100 largest international media companies, women accounted for just 17% of senior management positions. Among the US-based companies on the list, there was not a single female CEO. The foundation's dedication to putting women and girls in leading roles to fund others who can imagine, create, and execute solutions to real-world problems and issues is nothing short of awesome. Your intentional inclusivity is awesome. This is a playbook that continues to set a high bar for everyone. It takes courage and a willingness to be vulnerable. As the late journalist Marie Colvin said about running into war zones and conflict areas as a woman, and she paid the ultimate sacrifice, bravery is not being afraid to be afraid. So, thank you to the New York Women's Foundation for living and breathing this every day for the 5 boroughs, for women and girls across the city. And we Pillars of Courage are happy to walk the walk with you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. I know we are virtually together, but it's so important to be together in times like this. We still want to use the breakfast to inspire us, to witness each other, to honor those that are creating a world that we really want to live in. A world that expresses our yearnings for justice, our yearnings for equity, our yearnings for freedom, from violence, from economic oppression, from racial injustice, from gender injustices, from immigration injustices. So today, how do we come to be here? We come to be here because every year, a group of volunteers comes together, thinks of the breakfast, thinks of the honorees, organizes the whole event, because the foundation has counted on incredible staff that also does that. Most importantly, because the foundation counts on you, counts on your supporters, counts on our sponsors. who know that what we fund matters. Funding the breakfast matters. Funding this community that gets together every year and moves the needle towards justice is a very important investment. So many of you have been before to the breakfast, and I hope many of you are new to the breakfast. But we want you to experience the community that moves together. So when we celebrate, we begin by celebrating our grantee partners. They create solutions inherently in their realities. Typically, philanthropy doesn't see yet those solutions because they are small. And solutions that are by and for women tend to be more undercapitalized. They tend to be smaller than other solutions. So that's where the foundation comes in. That's where your support makes a difference, because we see women as engines of solutions, as hubs in their communities, in their families, in their places of work, in their educational settings, and we fund them. We fund women that are pioneering and they are mobilizing these solutions in their communities. And what do we find? We find that these solutions are ingeniously viable, that they express not only dealing with a challenge, but they express a vision of justice. Not only combating a problem, but putting forth the kind of world that we want to live in. And I know that that's why you're here today, because you also yearn for that world. So today, we are so proud to tell you that over the 34 years of the foundation, we have consistently invested in those community solutions by and for women. This year, 2021, our grant making will reach $100 million. That's a very important investment in more than 500 organizations throughout the city. Organizations that we could see the intensity of leadership, the effectiveness of the solutions, and that we invested in. And that continue to be first responders for their communities. Just like the foundation, they respond on an ongoing basis. We fund on an ongoing basis. But when a challenge comes up, they respond more. And so do we. So of course, we created a COVID fund that allows us to increase the grant making and support additional stressors that our grantee partners and their communities have been living in. So as you move towards your world, and as you think about where we are and where we want to be, more than ever, I want you to imagine and listen to the imagination of justice that others are putting forth. Because it is possible. It is possible for us to live in prosperity for all. It is possible for everyone to have a thriving wage, not just a living wage, not just a minimum wage, but a thriving wage. It is possible to live free of violence. It is possible to not incarcerate people and invest in communities, in people and their opportunities. It is possible to keep families together away from inhuman immigration policies. It is possible for us to create what we want to see. It is possible for us to not just preserve democracy, but expand the inclusion and the practices of democracy. But for that, we need to act together. In order to create a new world, it takes all of us. It takes grantee leaders, it takes movements, it takes donor partners, it takes supporters, it takes all of us coming as who we are, but doing all that we can. So thank you for being here today. I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you in advance for being here tomorrow and the day after and the day after. Thank you.
We came together around the time of two murders of two Indo-Caribbean women, Gayatri Hardat and Natasha Raman. We ourselves were survivors of domestic violence in different ways, and we saw ourselves in these sisters. The traditional leaders in our community, who were much older and much more male, were not speaking out. And we felt that we needed to break the silence and we needed to stand up and become the leaders that we needed in that moment.
Jahaji Sisters was always my passion work, to create a space that was safe and brave for women to come together and share their stories and speak their truth. I don't think that had ever been done in our community before. We were like, we have to do something about this, but we cannot continue to do this work on a volunteer basis. It's not what our community deserves. And the New York Women's Foundation had an infrastructure grant that we applied for, and it actually supported Shavana and I to step into staffing roles.
New York Women's Foundation really helped us become more visible in the philanthropic community, which has been really amazing for us, especially as a community that often feels utterly invisible.
The arts and culture is almost like our secret sauce of how we do this work. It's very different when people can feel it on that heart level. And also the very act of just speaking your story out loud, using poetry, using prose, is also healing.
And there's a sense of agency there that you don't have when you're experiencing gender-based violence and that kind of trauma. And actually, we deserve to thrive. It's not about survival. I'm so excited for you to meet Aisha Farooq. She is one of our fierce young leaders at Jahaji Sisters, and she has been mobilizing the forces to make sure that Jahaji has boots on the ground over the last couple of months. And it's only thanks to our partners like the New York Women's Foundation and badass young leaders like Aisha that we're able to do the work that we do.
I was born and raised in Queens, New York. Both of my parents are from Guyana. They were born and raised there, then they immigrated here, and that's where they met each other. I identify as an Indo-Caribbean woman. I'm also Muslim, and currently I am working as an immigration navigator at Choi CDC, which is another community-based organization focusing on serving South Asians and Indo-Caribbean folk. When I was younger, I just thought domestic violence existed normally. I thought it was something that many families experienced. I think in the Indo-Caribbean community, there's a lot of shame in admitting that it happens. I think it's something that is so indicative of why it's important to have these kind of spaces, right? Because a lot of women think it's normal, right? And it's really not. A lot of women don't talk about it. A lot of women feel lots of shame. They see it as themselves allowing it to happen versus somebody really inflicting harm on them. They don't see it in that kind of manner. They see it as it must be my fault. So there's a lot of reflexive self-hate that I think a lot of women in our community do internalize. Having these kinds of spaces are so key in holding space for each other, but also understanding that, these experiences, while they're not unique, they're also not normal. One of my friends had sent me this post that Jahaji was looking for, census workers. And for me, one of the reasons why I ended up applying was, well, one, because I went to a public school, in this neighborhood, and going to a predominantly white institution and realizing how much of a difference it makes, right, in access to resources, for example. I remember thinking, I know that the census is related to the access of resources. And for me, that was actually one of the reasons why I decided to get involved with Jahaji Sisters. And then Shavana had reached out to me about joining as a campaign organizer for Jahaji Sisters, working in the coalition to fund excluded workers. They had been heralded as unsung heroes of the pandemic, right? They were the ones keeping everyone afloat. And yet, they were so utterly neglected. I mean, it's not just like the Indo-Caribbean community. There's so many folk across the city who were really deeply in pain, right? And they weren't seen, they weren't visible at all. They were visible only in their productivity. Part of my background is in public health, and so for me, I was like, this is a way to get engaged. I was feeling very fed up with and very frustrated with the city response. It was not culturally competent, and so for me, being involved in that kind of way was really, really deeply gratifying. We were showing up, right? And we were also making it clear that, that this is also very gendered, right? Like the experience of being undocumented, of being excluded when you're also facing violence, right? That's like another reason for you not to leave, right? You don't have the resources, you don't have the means of leaving. It's not an option for you. My hope for the Indo-Caribbean community, and of course it's really hard because I want it now, but I want like a real revolutionary cultural change, right? And thinking about the role of our women, and in thinking about how we talk about, how we communicate and connect with about family and domestic violence. I really do hope that there are a lot more women who feel comfortable in speaking up, and I think that's one of the most important things. I attribute a lot of my courage and what I do to my mother, actually, because I actually didn't want to be like her, and that's one of the reasons why I became somebody in my family who, speaks up a lot. I did not want to be silent. Something that has really taken me far has been, people can take away everything from you, but never what's in your head. And I think I've carried that with me in terms of my opinions, my ideas, right? People can't take that away from me. And I really attribute a lot of what I do and a lot of how I think to her. And something she told me, when I was younger was, it's never, I think I can, but I will.
Saludos. I'm Aide Morales, proud board member of the New York Women's Foundation and co-chair of the Celebrating Women's Breakfast Steering Committee. I'm so grateful to be here with you today, and I thank you for being here with us. I am a proud Puerto Rican from El Barrio who has been in service of others since I was a child. My mother would have my sister and I translate the mail and fill out applications of our neighbors at Wagner projects. Back then, she knew the importance of doing things together and the value of service. Today, I humbly ask you to do something with us at the New York Women's Foundation. The foundation is so important. It invests in leaders, organizations, and programs that serve the greatest needs of neglected and marginalized communities. We have an incredible chance right now to help the foundation continue their work, and we can reach our goal together. Join me now. Text CWB21 to 44321. That's CWB21 to 44321. Your dollars will help over 200 grantee partners in New York City and beyond. And any amount you can contribute is valued. What's important is that you give, because as we journey to justice together, remember that we are most powerful when we do this together. I thank you so very much.
Good morning again. I am Yvonne Moore, chair of the New York Women's Foundation. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our next Celebrating Women Breakfast honoree, Jordan Castille. Jordan is an incredible young artist. She is a storyteller, a painter, exploring urban life and the informal networks that sustain Black communal bonds. The proud daughter and granddaughter of social justice activists, Jordan credits her family for her understanding of art's relationship to social change. She has said her childhood was enlivened by her family's active collecting of Black art and conversation around how Black creators seek to define and defy the world. Jordan has attracted widespread acclaim for her illuminating and colossal portraits that spotlight the everyday people from her Harlem community, who might not otherwise see themselves reflected in those public venues, such as museums, meant to unite communities around a shared existence. Working from photographs that she takes herself, Jordan creates portraits with nuanced expressions and body language that chronicle her observations of the human experience. In 2020, Jordan presented a solo exhibit titled Within Reach at the New Museum in New York. She's had other notable solo exhibitions at the Iris and B. Gerald Cantor Center for Visual Arts at Stanford University, as well as in her hometown of Denver, Colorado, at the Denver Art Museum. Her art has been featured in the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago, the Baltimore Museum of Art, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles, and the Studio Museum in Harlem. Not only is Jordan sharing her art to inspire a more diverse and inclusive world, but she is also helping budding artists find their voice as an assistant professor of painting in the Department of Arts, Culture, and Media at Rutgers University. Jordan, it is my honor to present you with the New York Women's Foundation's Celebrating Women Award for your vision to seek out, capture, and represent the beauty, humanity, and love of Black folks in art.
Good morning. Thank you, New York Women's Foundation and guests, for this incredible honor. I am here with you today celebrating your achievements and galvanizing towards the collective futures that we all share, which is truly special. It is in moments like these that we have the opportunity to take stock of how far we've come and how far we have left to go. It is an opportunity for fellowship and laughter and action. It's an opportunity to take a moment of pause and to get to know one another more deeply. I, Jordan Margaret Castille, am the daughter of Lauren Young Castille, president and CEO of the Women's Foundation in Colorado. I am the granddaughter of Margaret Buckner Young, children's book author, teacher, and ardent supporter of the arts. I am the niece of educators, seamstresses, and creators. I am from generations of Black women who have fought for themselves and their communities, giving me the roadmap to do the very same. It is through observing the women around me that I have developed a sense of self, whether from my own bloodline or a person I recently met on the street. I've always had a deep sense of curiosity about the people I encounter on the footpath of life. Now, working as a painter and professor, I've been able to bring all facets of myself to the forefront. My painting practice is centered around the communities and people I have found often left on the periphery, and I seek to bring them into focus for others to see more fully, more empathetically, more completely. It all starts with a simple, hello, how are you? And a deep sense of curiosity about the individual stories and truths. It is through a small opening that relationships and love emerge. And with that, I want to tell you the story of a woman who has changed my life. Her name is Yvonne. I first met Yvonne when I was a resident at the Studio Museum in Harlem. I had painted her husband, James. I saw him on the street on 125th Street in Lenox as he was selling CDs in front of Sylvia's restaurant. He caught my eye because there was this glow. It literally looked like the skies parted and the light was touching him so fiercely that I knew this was somebody that I had to introduce myself to. I asked him if I could paint him. I told him I wanted to get him on the walls of the museum that I was working. He took me sort of seriously, but quite frankly, probably not as seriously as he ultimately did later. I invited him to come see the finished work in my studio. When he came to see the painting for the first time, he stood in front of it and said, "Oh, I thought this was going to be a little drawing or something. It's huge. I have to go get my wife." And he ran out of the space just as fast as he had arrived. All of us in the studio were looking around in complete awe that A, he had shown up. I wasn't completely convinced he was going to come. And B, how quickly he left after he came. It was maybe a few short minutes later that a woman came in with him. And she looked just like him. I'm not even kidding. She was wearing the skirt version of the suit he had been wearing. And I could see her asking people where the artist was. Someone pointed me out, and she cut through the crowd with such ferocity and fierceness. She was ready to meet me. I didn't know what to think, but she threw her arms around me and gave me the biggest embrace I had had in a very long time and said, "Thank you for seeing him in the way that I have always seen him. Thank you for loving him in this painting and sharing that with the world. As a result of this, you will always be our angel and our daughter. I will never leave your side." She meant what she said. She had embraced me as her daughter. From that moment on, she called me twice a week, sometimes more, just to say, "Hey, baby girl," calling to say that I love you. She was somebody that I learned very quickly was always by the side of James. She supported him. She gave him so much love, the same love that she gave me. It was 2 years ago that Yvonne passed. James and I have been mourning her loss together, thinking of her often. I play her voicemails. What I know is that she had unconditional love that I had never received and couldn't have received unless I said hello. It is because of the work of the New York Women's Foundation that stories like mine and Yvonne's come into focus. Thank you for seeing all of us as our most authentic selves and ensuring we find our rightful place on the walls of history.
Good morning. It's an honor to introduce you to Sheri Sandler at this amazing 34th New York Women's Foundation Breakfast of Champions. Sheri, you are so deserving of this Vision Award. You know, I got kind of nervous when I thought I have to introduce Sheri. How am I going to do that? And I thought there's only a few minutes to give an essence to all my audience out here as to who Sheri really is. And I thought, I know what to do. I'll call out my helpline. My helpline is many of the women that you have helped over the years, Sheri. And here's a sample of what they came back with. Effective, generative, resourceful, creative, discerning, thoughtful, humorous, courageous, visionary, magnanimous, dedicated, kind, thoughtful, generous, connector, loyal, humble, caring. But two of my very favorites are storyteller and dauntless. And so I think that's why you epitomize the New York Women's Foundation. One of their key values is radical generosity. I wish I had my hat. I have my radical generosity hat, from the New York Women's Foundation. I love it so much. You know, but I think that probably Maya Angelou said it best. She said, if you do something, when you have to make a decision, if you do it with an open heart, you'll always make the right decision. And Sheri, you have such an open heart. Thank you for opening up the world to us, to open up your heart to us, and being the kind of person that you were always meant to be, a woman of love and character and kindness.
Good morning, everybody. And I'm so happy to be here and be a part of this beautiful morning. Rita, thank you for being part of this with me and for allowing me to work with you over the years and to get to know your beautiful community and the extraordinary work you're doing for your friendship. And to Madeline Lamore Holder, thank you for seeing me, as you say, Sawabona, for asking me to step up. And here I am, Hineni. Thank you for the beautiful work that we've done together. And to Helen LaKelly Hunt, thank you for picking me out of a crowd many, many years ago and seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself, and for giving me the opportunity to explore just what that was or is. And through the New York Women's Foundation, through my work with the grantee partners, getting to know so many powerful women supporting their communities and all of the different boroughs, I can honestly say I have found my voice, and I'm so pleased to hold this walking stick and to know that it is a stick that helps me on my journey to try to make as many positive changes as I can as I go. The foundation has taught me to talk my walk and walk my talk. And as so many women are doing in different communities, individual needs, individual communities have individual situations. And here we are as a foundation supporting the work of so many women and girls, many, of course, that we don't know. And how great is that we can actually make a difference in the lives of women and girls and whole communities that we don't know. But it's all great work, and I've been so privileged to be a part of it. I'm really looking forward to next year when we can be 2,000 plus strong again and be yelling across the room and hugging each other and waving again and feeling that energy and getting that charge to keep doing the work that we know needs to be done. So again, thank you, New York Women's Foundation. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Marcia. Thank you, I think I said Anna, and all of you who work tirelessly at the foundation. Thank you, the board, the staff, and all of the beautiful grantee partners. Congratulations. I know the New York Women's Foundation and Perimeter as a grantee, as a donor partner, means a lot to all of the grantee partners. And I hope that you will all join me by becoming a donor partners. And again, congratulations to all of the grantee partners.
I had a whole plan in my life and got sort of derailed. My mom died quite suddenly, so I sort of had to rethink what I was going to do. I wasn't planning to start an organization or run a nonprofit, but I found that entrepreneurship has an incredible power to provide opportunity for people to take ownership over a path that they may have sort of lost sight of. The community that Start Small, Think Big serves is fantastically diverse. 95% of our businesses identify as people of color or women. The challenges that these businesses are facing now aren't new. They've just been significantly exacerbated. The ways that we have really supported particularly women through this time is by promoting our women-owned businesses. We have also significantly expanded our eligibility criteria. We have moved our programming nationally so that we're serving significantly more businesses. We launched an emergency relief fund, helping them stay open. Our programming really shifted tremendously to be as responsive as quickly as possible to the significantly changing needs that we saw over the last year. Start Small has a very long history with the New York Women's Foundation. You know, they invested in us before anyone else because they really believed in our mission, our vision, and the passion that continues to drive our work. It's now a decade later, and I think we're delivering a really incredible impact. And that really started with their grant. The New York Women's Foundation took that chance on us. We take that chance on the businesses that we support. Start Small has been honored to work with LaParis Phillips, who is the owner of Brooklyn Blooms in New York. LaParis embodies the resilience and creativity that makes Start Small what it is. We are very excited for you to meet LaParis and hear her story.
I've always worked in family-owned business. Most flower shops, if not all flower shops, are family-owned. So having that experience of being in the shop and seeing how things work and just like being in the environment really like shaped me. I always knew I wasn't going to stay in St. Louis. After traveling at a young age, I already knew I need to get to a bigger place, a more busy place, somewhere like where things are happening. And New York looked like that place. Fashion wasn't what got me to New York. That's what brought me. But really, flowers was like the real destiny, the real, end goal. And I didn't know it. And one day I got fired, and I was so happy. I was like, thank God, they fired me. Like, I felt like shackles fell off my body when I walked out. It was because I wasn't supposed to be there. Me getting fired really pushed me like, okay, now it's your turn. You're going to flowers now. In the flower industry, there are definitely a lot of women, but people of color, not so much, which is why I think it's important for me to have a shop, show people that, you could be a florist and be young and be funky, be cool, and actually make money at it. So Start Small, Think Big, they've been with me every step of the way. Since my first shop, they, helped me with the contract, even like accounting. I need the POS system. Like, how do I do this? I had spoke to a marketing person, so they helped me put together a marketing plan. And this is all very in the beginning of my business. So moving to the second shop with Start Small, Think Big, they've helped me a lot financially. I got like 2 or 3 grants from them. And so they helped me with all those type of, things that I wouldn't have known how to do as well, without them. So we've been working with each other for a long time now. So my shop is called Brooklyn Blooms. I think Brooklyn Blooms is almost like a statement, like Brooklyn Blooms. Growing up as a woman, as a businesswoman, like really blooming in Brooklyn. So I guess that's why I kind of embody that Brooklyn Blooms, because I'm blooming. So COVID affected my business deeply, but in a positive way. Flowers, I have learned, are pandemic and recession proof. For the pandemic, it was crucial that people send flowers to each other. Not for me, but for just customers, I learned. It was all different type of reasons that people were sending flowers. When the protests came and, the George Floyd situation happened and the whole, support Black business, I was getting hit with a lot of business. It was good, but it was also overwhelming. In that moment, I was like, okay, we need a bigger space because this is out of hand. And I'm so thankful I can say that, because I know other people can't say that, especially peers that look like me can't say that. I want to be here as a light, wow, you can really have something that's different from your regular flower shop, because Brooklyn Blooms is not just a flower shop. It's a community of people. People really gravitate to Brooklyn Blooms because of how we use colors. Like my brides, they're like, oh, I booked you because we love how you play with color. We want something fun for our wedding. We want something exciting and unique and different. I guess to give joy to people. We deliver joy. We deliver actual beauty and actual joy to people. So it's just so dope to have that opportunity and spread that around the world when all this chaos is happening. And it's even more important for me as a Black woman to be able to do that too. The hardest things to overcome as an entrepreneur, for me, you really got to have tenacity and be able to be stretched in so many different ways and still have that belief that something gonna happen the next day, something good gonna happen. So yes, that's hard, but it's also a little fun because I have my own business and I can make money however I want. I knew I was gonna make money, but I was just I don't know when. And how much is this, how long is this going to last for? But I just know when your back is against the wall, that forces you to be creative. So it's just a beautiful thing overall. The whole experience is wow, we are doing this and we are here and we're making it work. But it can be daunting to be an optimist, especially when you see the realities of the world. But I think we have to have hope. Because tomorrow gonna come anyway. So how we gonna deal with that time when it comes? So you might as well be hopeful and hope for a brighter day, a better day, or more sound, peaceful day. I have so many ways I want to take this company, building the 2 shops to run on their own. And then also, I definitely want to stay in the community as far as having a flower shop and obviously to employ the community and just bring beauty to it. I love it. I love flowers and I love, I think it's so amazing that I get to put my key in 2 different doors and open up 2 different shops. But I really enjoy it. I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else, to be honest with you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Choi. I'm a board member of the New York Women's Foundation. I'm grateful to be with all of you here today. You heard from Ida earlier in the program, and now I'm here to remind you that it's not too late to give to the foundation. And I ask each of you here today to show radical generosity. Our city, our country, and the world needs radical generosity today. This is an investment. This is an investment in our future and what we want our future to look like. I'm Korean American. I'm the daughter of 2 immigrants. I'm the wife of an immigrant. I'm the mother of 4 girls. I've been involved with the New York Women's Foundation for over a decade, and I've fallen in love with the foundation because they are true visionaries. They can see the problems and figure out the solutions before the rest of us even know what the problems are. Think about that. We invested in an organization which could see the potential rise in Asian hate crimes. Talk about incredible foresight. So let's help the foundation continue with all this necessary and critical work and reach our goal of $1 million. Join me now by texting CWB21 to 44321. CWB21 to 44321. Your dollars will support more than 200 grantee partners across the city and beyond. Together, we will make change. Together, we will make a brighter future for all. Thank you.
Well, it gives me so much pleasure to be able to give this amazing Celebrating Women Award to la fabulosa, increíble Mónica Ramirez. Óyeme, Mónica, felicidades. Welcome to the club of those of us who have been honored by the New York Women's Foundation with your walking stick. It's actually hangs above my desk. I see it every day when I walk into the office, which I will do when the pandemic is over. But I am so happy for you, Mónica. Mónica, you know, I admire many women. Most of the women who I admire are actually people don't know who they are. They are just working, doing the work. And that is you. That is where you come from. Midwesterner like myself, Ohio, que viva Ohio. That is you. Except that then along the way, you understood the profound responsibility of us owning our voices and our power. And that's when everything changed, Mónica. That's why the work that you have done with Las Poderistas and all of your work has touched and influenced tens of thousands of women. That's why you're receiving this award and the organization, because you have touched tens of thousands of women, Latinas and other women. And what you're doing for us is you're telling us, own our power, own our voice. So it's interesting that, you know, as women, we're being celebrated as Latinas, as immigrants, as hijas de inmigrantes. And yet the thing that connects you and me and the work that you do is our love of democracy. And that's at the core. That's at the core of what the New York Women's Foundation is all about. It's why they have these breakfasts events so that we can see each other, so that in the power of seeing each other, we can believe in ourselves and each other. And Mónica, that's what you do. With all of your work, you make us see ourselves and believe in our own power and our own voice. You do that for me. Imagínate. So I am so proud that you are receiving the Celebrating Women Award from the New York Women's Foundation in 2021. Vamos a hacer esto. El año que entra, we're going to do this for reals, IRL, in real life, masked up if we need to be, vaxxed if we need to be, and we're going to be hugging each other because that's what we deserve. And that's what you deserve for all of the amazing work that you have done to change the lives of women and girls. Gracias, Mónica. Felicidades. Bien merecido.
Thank you to the New York Women's Foundation, to Ana, to the board, and to the selection committee, on behalf of all of the founders of Poderistas. Poderistas is a movement by and for Latinas to embrace, elevate, and amplify our power. Poderistas is one of the fastest growing platforms for Latinas in the United States. There are 30 million Latinas in our country. We launched Poderistas because Latinas are engaged and have always been at the center of so much important work in our communities across our country. But the research showed that even though Latinas are among the highest number of individuals to be registered to vote and have been involved in so many other critical issues and campaigns, unfortunately, Latinas face a confidence gap. We know that we're powerful, and we wanted to shine a light on all of our power. And so that is why we created Poderistas. We wanted Latinas to understand and feel our power, and we wanted the country to see that too. So we have done this work to shine a light on the power of Latinas across our country by creating a unique platform that uses a formula of lifestyle and civic engagement content. We are amplifying the stories of incredible Latinas, from the farm worker women who feed us, to the domestic workers who care for our children and our families, to the executives who are launching and running important businesses, and the political leaders who are shaping the decisions that impact our lives, not to mention everyday Latinas who are contributing in so many important ways. You see, Latinas in our country currently face the largest gaps when it comes to the wealth gap, the pay gap, and so many other areas. Latinas are not adequately represented at the power tables where we need to be represented, like in politics and in other spaces. And so through Poderistas, we seek to bridge the gaps that exist for Latinas in our country, from closing the wealth gap and the pay gap to these power gaps. Our work is critically important, particularly in light of the COVID-19 crisis. For the Latinx community was among one of the hardest hit communities with this virus. And we know that women across this country have been uniquely impacted by COVID. In fact, more than 2 million women have been pushed out of the labor market during this pandemic, and Latinas number more than 1 million of those women workers who've been pushed out of their jobs, either because their companies did not support them with the policies that they needed to be able to care for themselves and their families during this crisis, or because businesses that they worked for closed, and a myriad of other reasons. We know that we have the potential, we have the desire, and we have the personal power to achieve great heights. Poderistas was founded because we want to do everything in our power to help support Latinas across this great nation to reach those heights. We know that we will be able to reach our goals with wonderful partners like you. And that is why, to me, the walking stick, this beautiful, prestigious award that we have been given by the New York Women's Foundation, it means so much. And the reason this walking stick means so much is because we are on a journey toward justice together. And we won't be able to reach the places and the spaces that we need to secure justice for Latinas and for all of us if we don't walk this road together. This walking stick is also symbolic of the fact that on this journey, we will and we must lean on one another. We know that the work that is in front of us is huge. The issues that we are addressing are monumental. And none of us should do this work or can do this work on our own. Thank you to the New York Women's Foundation for extending your gracious and kind support to Poderistas. We look forward to working with you to build the world of our dream. That world is a world where all of us can work and live with dignity and with safety. We know that together we will be able to achieve that dream for all of us. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much to the New York Women's Foundation for this special honor. All of us at Poderistas are so grateful for your leadership and your advocacy and your support. Thank you so, so much.
Hi, I'm Lola C. West, board member and co-chair of the Celebrating Women's Breakfast Steering Committee. I'm here with my co-conspirator, Aide Morales. Well, this has been quite a journey to justice today. We have heard from our honorees, grantees, and beneficiaries inspiring journeys. While they are on separate journeys, they all follow a common path, a path of passion and dedication to economic, gender, and racial equity.
We've also taken some time today to talk about your radical generosity. Thank you for your support of the foundation. Their grant-making work is vital in creating a world where women lead, live safely, and can thrive. But this journey doesn't end today. It continues on in each and every one of you when you leave here and go on about your day.
Together, we can keep the spirit of radical generosity going. It's not too late to donate. All you have to do is text CWB21 to 44321. Again, text CWB21 to 44321. Any amount you can contribute is appreciated. What is important is that you give so that we might continue this journey to justice together. And now, to help us close out the 2021 Celebrating Women's Breakfast, we have a phenomenal performance for you by the Dance Theater of Harlem.
Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in person in 2022.